The stage was set. The bright studio lights cast a professional glow over the sleek, modern set of The Rachel Morris Show, a primetime talk show known for its sharp political commentary and relentless questioning. Tonight's guest was Barron Trump, and the audience could feel the underlying tension in the air. Rachel Morris, the seasoned liberal host, was an expert at crafting narratives. She had built her career on mocking conservative figures, taking jabs at their policies, and often framing them as out of touch or unqualified. Tonight, her target was the youngest Trump, Barron. He was a rare guest in the media world, someone who had largely stayed out of the political spotlight despite his family name. But recently, he had started making public appearances, displaying an intelligence and quiet confidence that surprised many. Rachel wasn't impressed. She had planned the interview to be light-hearted on the surface, but strategically laced with condescension, the kind that would make audiences laugh at Barron rather than with him. The cameras started rolling. The audience cheered enthusiastically, though some seemed more interested in seeing how Barron would handle himself rather than supporting him outright. Rachel extended a hand as Barron walked onto the stage. At 6 feet 7 inches, he towered over her, his calm demeanor a sharp contrast to the eager, almost performative energy of the host. He sat down, crossing one leg over the other in an effortless display of composure, adjusting his suit slightly. Rachel flashed her trademark mischievous smile, the kind she used when she was about to have fun at someone else's expense. Well, we have a Trump on my show. I didn't think that would ever happen," she said. The audience chuckled. Barron offered a polite smile, but didn't react beyond that. Rachel leaned forward. "Welcome, Barron. This is your first time doing a big sit-down interview like this, isn't it?" Barron nodded slightly. "It is." Rachel smirked. "Nervous?" The audience laughed again, assuming the young Trump must be out of his depth. But Barron just tilted his head, meeting her gaze without a hint of discomfort. "Not at all." Rachel's smile froze for half a second, just enough for the camera to pick it up. She cleared her throat, brushing it off. "Well, I have to say, I think people are fascinated by you," she chuckled, shaking her head dramatically. "I mean, come on, you're 18, you're ridiculously tall, and you come from that family. It's like you were made in a political laboratory." The audience laughed, and Rachel leaned back, grinning smugly, waiting for Barron to stumble or look uncomfortable. Instead, he simply nodded. "I suppose that's one way to look at it." Rachel's smile tightened slightly. She had expected him to flinch, to show discomfort, but he remained unshaken. She flipped through her notes and decided to push harder. "So, tell me, Barron, growing up in Trump Tower, private schools, luxury vacations, did you ever feel like you were in a bit of a bubble, like you weren't really seeing what real life is like?" The audience murmured with anticipation. This was a classic trap. If Barron said no, he'd sound entitled. If he said yes, he'd be admitting that his upbringing made him out of touch. But Barron didn't blink. "Everyone grows up in a bubble, Miss Morris." Rachel blinked, caught off guard. "Oh," she said, tilting her head, the smugness slowly fading. Barron nodded. "Your childhood, for example, was probably very different from mine. Does that mean you're out of touch with how I grew up?" The audience let out a collective "ooh," sensing the shift in control. Rachel's eyes flickered, her mind racing. He had turned the question back on her effortlessly. "Well," she started, trying to regain control, "I wasn't exactly flying in private jets as a kid." Barron shrugged. "And I wasn't hosting late-night talk shows. Every life is unique. I don't think anyone fully understands someone else's reality unless they've lived it." The audience clapped unexpectedly, catching Rachel off guard. She laughed, but it was a touch more forced now. Okay, I see you came prepared. But let's talk about something that's a bit more, well, controversial." She flipped a card dramatically, glancing at the audience as if she were about to deliver a punchline. "Your dad." The audience perked up, sensing the moment they had been waiting for. Rachel continued, her voice laced with mock concern. "Barron, I have to ask, growing up with a father as, let's say, outspoken as Donald Trump, did you ever feel embarrassed by some of the things he said?" The audience burst into laughter, assuming Barron would squirm, hesitate, or try to dodge the question. Instead, he smiled slightly and leaned forward. Did you ever feel embarrassed by some of the things Joe Biden said? The room went dead silent. Rachel's smirk evaporated instantly. The audience, unsure how to react, gasped softly. Barron remained perfectly still, his expression cool and unreadable. Rachel, now clearly off her game, let out a forced chuckle. Well, that's different. Barron simply shrugged. Is it? The audience erupted into applause. Rachel stiffened in her seat, gripping her note cards a little too tightly. For the first time in her career, she was losing control of the narrative, badly. She scrambled to salvage the moment, trying to turn things back around. All right, she said, forcing a smile. Let's not get too political here. This is a fun show, right, guys? The audience laughed nervously, sensing that the interview had already gone wildly off course. Barron sat back, relaxed and unbothered. Rachel quickly moved to the next question, desperate to recover, but everyone in that studio knew what had just happened. The once confident talk show host had just been outmaneuvered by an 18-year-old. Rachel Morris was flustered. The audience had sensed the shift in power, and instead of her usual ability to control the conversation with ease, she was now struggling to keep up. She had expected a nervous, inexperienced young man, someone who would stumble over his words or backtrack under pressure. Instead, she had encountered a composed, quick-thinking, and quietly confident Barron Trump. Still, she wasn't ready to give up. She flashed a tight smile, adjusting her posture in an attempt to regain control. Okay, she said with a forced chuckle. You got me with that one. But let's move on. She glanced at her cue cards, her mind racing for a way to turn the tables back in her favor. Then she found her moment. She set the cards down dramatically and looked Barron straight in the eye. All right, Barron, let's be real. Your father was one of the most controversial presidents in history. His policies, his tweets, the way he spoke about people, he wasn't exactly known for subtlety, was he? The audience chuckled. Barron simply raised an eyebrow, waiting for her to continue. Rachel smirked. There were times when even his supporters cringed at what he said. Be honest, was there ever a moment where you thought, Dad, maybe you should just stop talking? The audience burst into laughter, waiting to see how Barron would handle the question. Instead of laughing along or dodging the question, Barron leaned forward slightly, his piercing blue eyes locking onto Rachel's. Are we judging presidents based on the things they say or the things they do? The laughter died instantly. Rachel blinked, caught off guard again. Barron's expression remained calm, but there was an undeniable edge to his words, a quiet yet unshakable confidence. Rachel tried to recover quickly. Well, words matter, don't they? Barron tilted his head slightly. Sure, but actions matter more. If we judged every leader in history only by the worst things they said, we'd have to erase a lot of people from the history books. The audience let out a collective ooh at his response. Rachel let out a tight, forced laugh, waving a hand dismissively. All right, Barron, all right, I see what you're doing. But let's be honest, you're young. You've lived your entire life in wealth and privilege. How can you possibly understand what the average American goes through? The question was sharp, designed to make Barron look detached and out of touch, but once again, he was ready. I could ask the same about you, Miss Morris, he said smoothly. The audience gasped, then erupted into cheers and laughter. Rachel's jaw tightened. Excuse me? She said, arching an eyebrow. Barron remained completely unfazed. Let's be real, he continued. You've worked in media for years. You live in an expensive city. You probably have a team of assistants, and you're interviewing me from a chair that costs more than what some people make in a month. The audience roared with applause. Rachel's face flushed slightly, but she forced another laugh, pretending to brush it off. All right, Barron, I'll give you that one, she said. But tell me this, do you actually want to go into politics, or are you just riding your father's legacy? It was a baited question, one designed to frame Barron as nothing more than a product of his father's name. But Barron had anticipated it. He sighed slightly, as if he had expected the question all along. People assume I'm just here because of my last name, he said. But the truth is, no one really knows what I stand for yet, and that's the funny part. People love to make assumptions about me before I even open my mouth. Rachel opened her mouth to respond, but Barron wasn't finished. "You asked if I want to go into politics," he continued, "but the better question is, why does the media assume I have to?" Rachel was stunned into silence for the first time all night. The audience erupted into applause once again, some people even giving him a standing ovation. Rachel's face twitched slightly, her mind racing for a way to save the interview, but it was over. Barron Trump had just done what very few had managed to do on her show. He had flipped the script entirely. He had entered as a guest expected to be mocked, but now he was leaving as the man who had controlled the entire conversation. As the applause died down, Rachel forced a smile, but everyone watching could tell she was rattled. "Well, Barron, this has been interesting." Barron chuckled softly. "Glad you think so." The audience laughed again, fully aware of what had just happened. Rachel sighed dramatically. "All right, fine, I'll admit it. You handled yourself well." Barron nodded. "Appreciated." The cameras began to fade out, and the last thing viewers saw was Rachel shaking her head, muttering to herself, while Barron sat calmly, looking completely unbothered. And just like that, the internet exploded. Within hours, the clip was trending under "Barron owns Rachel," with tags like "Sharp," "Collected," "Future Trump." Comment sections flooded with reactions. He didn't just hold his own, he dominated. Rachel thought this was going to be easy. She learned today, Barron Trump is not to be underestimated. By the next morning, multiple news outlets were analyzing how an 18-year-old had outclassed one of the most seasoned interviewers on television. And Rachel, she had to face the humbling reality that she had just become the latest public figure to underestimate Barron Trump. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that inspire and challenge us to grow. What would you have done if you were in his shoes? Let us know in the comments below.